Hey everybody, Scott Barboza for ESPNBoston.com. High school's coming at you with your Thursday Thanksgiving Day preview in advance here. Brendan Hall joining me as always. Brendan, it's Thanksgiving Day, obviously a little bit different this year with the new playoff plan, but then again, hey, it's still Turkey Day after all.
Yeah, it's always a special time of year, no matter what's on the line with what kind of state championship playoff system, whatever we have going on. There's some rivalries out there that are always going to be big no matter what's on the line. And I think we're going to see quite a few this year, to be honest with you.
No, honestly, Brendan, let's talk about something that we have gone over a little bit here throughout the season. A lot of people, kind of the detriment to the system is that, well, you have a lot of teams that are repeat players, teams that are in the same league are going to be playing each other again on Thanksgiving. How do you feel that this has actually affected how everybody has viewed Thanksgiving leading into the event?
Well, as I've said all year, the best rivalries will withstand the test of time no matter what is on the line, no matter what's at stake. I think back to perfect example, late September, Plymouth North versus Plymouth South, 4 o'clock start on a Friday, and that place was over capacity, packed out, unbelievable crowd for an afternoon matinee, Friday football game. And I know for a fact that when they met again in the finals in D3 Southeast 2 weeks ago, that was again a big atmosphere. I think the best rivalries, they're going to turn out no matter what. I'm headed to Leominster-Fitchburg on Thanksgiving morning. Leominster's out of the playoffs after a disappointing loss to St. John's in the final, but they're geared up for this. Fitchburg's geared up for this. There's no love lost between there. The best rivalries, no matter what's on the line, we'll say at time. And I'll say this regarding playing an opponent again. I think back to a couple years ago. People don't like when I say this, but Alabama LSU was not the second time around. The build to the second game that year 2 years ago bigger than the first time.
It was a little thing that was going on at that particular time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everything everybody was talking about, and I don't think there's going to be any difference in the respective communities. Everybody's still going to come out the same. It really doesn't matter. You bring up the case of Plymouth South. They've, for all intents and purposes, given us the indication that they're pretty much not going to play their starters at all. They're not going to see the field in this game against Plymouth North. But then, of course, you have other circumstances. You think about Westwood Holliston that have played 2 absolutely tremendous, riveting games. They got the rubber match coming up here. But, in that regard, Brendan, talking about our teams that are going to be moving on to Gillette Stadium in the state championships, 12 teams across the state, how would you play that?
Yeah, I know it's unfortunate, but you got to sit your starters.
Yeah.
I think nobody wants to be that coach that puts out his starters and have the bravado, and then one of them gets hurt, and then you risk losing him for your most important game of the season, the state championship. No disrespect to Thanksgiving football; it's a pretty cool event. But with a state championship now fully on the horizon, that is a team's primary objective every year. And if you have that opportunity, you don't want to do anything to screw that up. Yeah. I happen to agree with Plymouth South's decision to sit their starters, especially considering Dylan Oxen, 272 carries in 9 games. Yeah. There's NFL running backs that are full-time 3-down backs that don't have 272 carries over a 16-game season. Yeah. So you have to rest these guys up. Give them an opportunity to get fully prepared to focus on the most important objective, which is winning a state title.
Now, let's just take a quick look at the state titles, because of course we'll have you back here next week going into Gillette Stadium. But Brendan, just coming off of last weekend, what matchup are you most looking forward to next weekend?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good matchups here. I think we look at Dennis Yarmouth versus Doherty in D4. That could be a real barn burner.
Absolutely.
We could look at Division 2, Mansfield, St. John's. I think that's going to put a lot of points up.
Some points here.
Just by the way St. John's plays, they want to make it a shootout. They want to make it a basketball score. That's when they're playing at their optimum. The one I really am looking forward to is Zavarian Central Catholic. Central Catholic, of course, world beaters after beating Everett for the Division I North final. I don't think anyone saw that coming. We all saw it being close, but I don't think anyone saw it pull it off. Zavarian really exceeded all our expectations this year. Joe Gaziano, I think, is Defensive Player of the Year front runner here. Tremendous season by him. Tremendous season by the defense. It's gonna be a low-scoring affair. There's gonna be a lot of violent collisions. There's gonna be a lot of brutal hits. I'm a big defensive guy. I love seeing that kind of style of play. It's gonna be a fun battle to watch.
Yeah, Gaziano, of course, newly anointed Catholic Conference MVP there. I'm still sticking with Division II, though, here, Brendan. It's been, bar none, the most compelling across the divisions. Of course, even with Waltham having a tough time with Mansfield last week, but a nice run, great story there, that program back online. Mansfield just running through the South, everything holding serve there. And then, of course, the build-up that we anticipated between potential Central Leominster matchup doesn't happen. St. John's is just absolutely on a tear now. It's really fun watching this group. As you mentioned, Brendan, a couple times, Davon Jones has just really come on strong. You know where you're getting with Drew Smiley. I just think it's going to be a great game, and of course, there's going to be a lot of points. But Brendan, let's skip back.
Fans too.
Absolutely, it should be a great turnout. I really do think so. Even if you're not affiliated, come out here, folks. You can come hang out. It'll be a great day, and hopefully we're not too crazy by the end of it.
But don't worry.
Let's get into the meat and potatoes here, per se, with Thanksgiving Day. Let's go down the roster here. Obviously, we all know, steeped in tradition across the board, talking about rivalries that go on, more than a century here. Let's take a look at one that maybe hasn't been so competitive in recent years, but really should be this year, with Boston Latin and Boston English.
Yeah, one of the oldest rivalries. It's the oldest rivalry in Boston Public Schools, obviously, and for most years, this is an easy win for Latin. I don't think it's going to be any stretch easy this year, and for one reason and one reason only. Emmanuel Almonte, the quarterback for Boston English, close to 1,600 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns. He's a terrific option quarterback. We've talked about Boston English being a rising power the next couple of years. Brian Vaughn, I think he already has them ahead of schedule.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to be really competitive in this one. I think they're going to pull it out, actually, be honest with you. English 21-20.
You talk about programs that have rehabbed this year. You talk about Attleboro, Lowell. I think Boston English is going to be one of those going forward with Coach Vaughn. Obviously, we saw the talent at St. Clement that has kind of moved on from that program and excelled very well in the postseason here. Acquitted themselves very fine. But I think in the end, I think we're just going to wait one more year on this. I'm going to go with Latin. Maybe the safe pick here. Let's call it like 20-14. Let's take a look at the Hockomock League, another matchup that we've seen earlier this year, but ultimately with Attleboro, they beat North Attleboro during the regular season, but it's been a while since they actually did the deed on Thanksgiving Day, so this is a very important game for this group.
Yeah, absolutely. And North Attleboro made a nice recovery after some struggles in the regular season, had a nice first-round win over Walpole in that D3 bracket. Attleboro, what can be said? What a run they had, beating Bridgewater Raymond in the fashion they did, going to play Zavarian and taking them to the wire.
Absolutely.
Hallmark season for a team that we really thought as a program was a powder keg, and Mike Strachan has really awakened all those senses, or retouched them, however you want to say. And there aren't many years where Attleboro has a true advantage in this series, but that is certainly the case this year. They're going to be the favorite, and I get them winning 28-21.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be competitive. We saw it a couple years ago when North was coming in with one loss, looking hopefully for a little playoff magic on that last day in the Hockomock. But even on that day, too, Attleboro, this group that's seniors now, they were sophomores then. They were firsthand to that. They played extremely tough and very well that day. I think it's going to be the same from North, but ultimately a little bit too much from the Blue Bombardiers. I'm going to go 21-17. Let's take a look as the aforementioned Battle of Plymouth, again for the third time this year. Should be a little bit of a different atmosphere, perhaps. But what do we see from North coming in here?
I mean, unfortunately, if South's not playing its starters, which they've indicated that likely be what happens, they're in for a fight here because Plymouth North, you have to think this is the last game for a lot of those seniors, and they're going to come out firing. Christian Carr, or the nice junior tailback, who's a single season rushing leader. I expect them to win this one. I think South makes a game of it, but if they're not playing their starters, I don't know how they beat Plymouth North here. Give me North 20-7.
Yeah, I think could be some really big titles from Christian Carr here, who's put up really big numbers against varsity opponents and good playoff opponents. It could be a really big day for him. Let's call it 28-14 for North. Let's take a look at the Middlesex League. Melrose, again, another team I think really making a strong statement this year. Obviously fell a little bit short last weekend, but they have a very stiff challenge coming in here with Wakefield.
Yeah, Melrose, that wasn't an easy first time around. Wakefield, I think, is a little bit underrated. They have a good quarterback. They get some good linemen. But, I mean, Malik Garrett, one of the breakout stars of the playoffs, and I think he ends his career on a high note at Melrose High School. I think he's going to get up a bunch of rushing yards, maybe close to 200, let's say. I don't know. Yeah. But let's give me the Red Raiders here, 25-13.
Going the same kind of vicinity there. I'm going with Melrose. Let's call it 20-14. Let's take a look at the Catholic Conference. Again, another one. Zavarian moving on to Gillette Stadium. Should be a little bit different, but Up at St. John's Prep, never an easy place to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a variant sounds like they're going to play to win here with this one. And St. John's Prep, since Johnny Thomas got hurt early in the season, they were kind of the walking wounded. But I think even if Zavarian doesn't play some of his stars, I still think they're a deep enough program that they can grind out a win here against St. John's Prep. But it's going to be a low-scoring affair. It's going to be a real grinded-out defensive affair. Let's say Zavarian 14-10.
I think it'll be interesting to see with this extra amount of time how some of those wounded bodies from Zavarian, DJ Spurtzel, Noah Sorrento, how they might maybe figure into the mix here going forward into next weekend. But I think we'll call it, just a little bit on depth here. Let's go with Zavarian 17-10. Let's take a look at the team the Hawks will be playing at Gillette Stadium, and that's Central Catholic. For recent memory here in the MVC, it's been Andover Central Catholic for that league crown and playoff implications, and this should be a good opportunity for Andover to come in here and perhaps, pull an upset over a team that's heading to a state championship.
Yeah, and again, early indicators were that Central Catholic would be playing to win here, but Andover's kind of licking its chops after that first one, and if Central is not putting all starters in, I think Andover keeps it close. I'm not sure which way to go on this one, to be honest with you, but I think the better team will win in the end, and that's Central Catholic. Give me them 27-20.
I'm going to, Joe, just on incentive here. I think the Golden Warriors, this is it. That's the swan song. Wilka Eikenberry, obviously one of the better two-way players and really exceptional defensive player in the state this year. I'm going to go with Andover 21-20. Let's take a look at the South Shore. In Duxbury and Marshfield. Marshfield, another team that been a tough couple years here for them, but really gotten things turned around in a tough ACL this year. But it's always, can you beat Duxbury on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah, and Duxbury's had their number the last couple of years, and that's been a big storyline going in here. Another big storyline is going to be the Battle of the Trenches. Marshfield's lineman versus Duxbury's lineman. I think Duxbury has the edge there. Marshfield, obviously, that unique system now, the pistol variations on Lou Silva's patented wing T formula there. But I just like Duxbury's defense a little bit better than this one. Give me the Dragons 17-13.
I think this has defensive stalemate written all over it. I like the Dragons a little bit more on that side of the ball and a little bit more on the offensive line as well, with Grant Kramer, of course, one of the real exceptional talents across the state this year. I'm going to go with Duxbury 14-7. Let's take a look at perhaps the most historical, or really it is the most historical matchup throughout the country here. Needham-Wellesley, what else needs to be said?
Yeah, Needham, I really feel like Wellesley can pull an upset here. I just think Needham, Panapinto notwithstanding, Needham can air it out. They're disciplined. Defensively, I think they can make just that one stop. That can be the difference here against Wellesley, because Wellesley is gonna carve them up all over the field here. I think. Give me Needham 42-38.
This is probably the most difficult game to predict on the day, I think. Of course, a lot of that tied to Mike Panapinto's health. That's at play here. But John Feduli, obviously, really electric season, I think is the word there. I mean, he's just been brilliant. But I'm going to go with Needham, even depending on the injury situation. I think they just get a little bit more in depth. We'll go with the Rockets 28-21. Let's take a look. This really might be perhaps the most intriguing game on the day. Westwood and Holliston, they're in a wash through the first two. These teams, these towns do not like each other all that much. This is going to be a raucous environment.
Yeah, I think we're going to haven't seen another high-scoring affair here, just the way these first two games have gone. Listen, Holliston's a different team since the first time they lost to Westwood. I think they're a little bit frustrated after that D4 loss to Dennis Yarmouth. They were picked off 5 times, sacked 4 times. I think they're going to clean some stuff up. They're going to finish on a high note here. I think Zach Elkinson has a big day, as he has for many games this year. Give me Holliston 45-41.
I think the question here is, how many overtimes are you up for? How many desserts are you up for? I think there's going to be 2 here.
Yeah. A baker's dozen.
But I think it's going to be the same result as the first time around. TVL MVP Bo Borludi pulling something out of the satchel for one last time. Let's go with Westwood 46-44 and get your popcorn ready. Leaves us with one left. Brennan, you'll be up there. Leominster-Fitchburg, obviously, things didn't go quite as anticipated for the Blue Devils at the end of their postseason run, but they should be very motivated coming out here.
This one's one of my favorite. I've always lived out in that area for a number of years, and I can tell you firsthand it is an intense rivalry. One of the best, I think, in New England, to be honest with you. Leominster obviously disappointed. They feel like they should be playing at Gillette Stadium. They feel like they left a lot of points off the board against St. John's. But, I think they recovered pretty quickly, and they're focused here on Fitchburg. And I think Neil O'Connor ends his high school career, his fine high school career, his very decorated high school career on a high note here. I think he's a big day against his arch rival, the Red Raiders here. Give me Leominster 35-20.
Yeah, I really don't see anything standing in Leominster's way here. They're going to be a little bit teed off, I think, from the last game out, and I just see them running away with this. Let's call it by a score of 28-24. Brennan, before we get going, that's our picks, but of course we'll have our staff picks too. Any message to your Oakmont, comrades out there?
Give me the floor here, huh? Yeah, listen, guys, in my 3 years on the Oakmont sideline, we never lost a Gardner, so make this one count.
And, of course, a little shout-out to my Bishop Connolly Cougars. They're in for a really good one. This could be an underrated match against Pope John Paul II down on the Cape Wednesday night. Coach Kogler doing a great job. Keep it up, boys. I know Diamond was a tough one, but keep it going. And, by the way, they might have 3 1,000-yard rushers this year.
Wow.
So keep it up, boys. Keep building the program the right way. But I think that's going to put a wrap on Thanksgiving Day. Should be a good one. As always, I'm Scott Barboza for Brennan Hall. Keep it tuned to ESPNBoston.com High Schools.